Hey, this is Barrett. I'm back again today with the channel. Today we're going to take a look at a scrape in Alabama from October to January, how many big bucks visited it, and why they were there, and when they were there, and why I think they were there. Let's get to the video. This is the same scrape that was in my last video that I made a hunt over. I'll link that up here in the corner if you can watch that video. I'll give you a little context. It's going to be a good one. Let's get to it. I'm going to narrate my way through this. This Velvet 8-point, the broken G2. We think it's a 4-year-old. We have him, he visits the scrape twice. It's hard torn. Got this 9-point. We see him a ton on the scrape. We thought he was a 4-year-old. I hope he's back this year. We don't know that he died. The deer with the head down is an 8-point. He was a 4-year-old last year. I videoed him as a 3-year-old. I'll link that. I have a video on the channel where I videoed him as a 3-year-old twice. This heavy buck here with the trash on his tooth was a 5-year-old, we believe. Got shot by the neighbors in youth season, but you know, we hunted him in bow season, and he was on the scrape. Definitely one of the deer that I was targeting when I hunted there in the video that I posted last week. I'll link that video up here in the corner. You see him as he's walking up to the scrape. I mean, he's hitting the scrape October, what's that, 18th, 19th, you know, in the daylight. He was a killable deer. So he hit the scrape a few times, as we see in October, so he was a killable deer. We just weren't there on the right day. A couple of 2-year-olds hitting it, and that 9-point's back in there. He's hitting the scrape, 5:55. After he's eating acorns, he's coming back to bed. He hits the scrape on the way back to bed. We thought the 9-point was a 4-year-old, so probably a deer that we may have shot had we seen him. There's that 8-point again in the bachelor group. You can see they're kind of like communicating around the scrape. You know, him and the 2-year-olds. He locks up with the 2-year-old here in a second. I think he weighed 220, something like that. That's a pretty big bodied deer from where we hunt. So, big 5-year-old 8-point deer would have been a great bow kill. There's that 9-point again, the 4-year-old hitting the scrape. You know, so that's 2 mature bucks, plus the other 8-point that's set down. That's 3 mature bucks hitting the scrape in October, you know, on the way to and from eating acorns. So, there's that 9-point again on the 2nd and the 1st of November. 2 consecutive days in there in the daylight. There he is in the morning on the 11th. We did have a little bit of break there. He's in there in the morning of the 11th coming in. So, yeah, there's the 8-point with him walking away. The 8-point and the 9-point together. Alright, so we do have a little bit of a break here. But I think what happens is we have these acorns disappearing that they're eating on this ridge. So they kind of stop hitting this scrape for a while. And you'll see us freshen this scrape up here in a minute. Scrapes in our area become more active in that end of December, beginning of January pre-rut phase anyway. So first night after the scrape is freshened up, you see the broke G2 deer from Velvet. He's back in for the first time. The 24th, you know, Christmas Eve, he's back in with this really heavy mature buck. I think he's a 5-year-old as well. I think we may have actually had him in Velvet as well. I didn't put that picture on there, but he's a heavy 8-pointer, tall, tight, and they're both hitting this scrape with a couple other young bucks. But I think he's maybe a 4-year-old broken G2 deer, and this 5-year-old 8-point, you see him there. You know, big body deer, looks like he weighs 220 or so. Hard to guess live weights really, but there he is checking the scrape. And then you had this other deer come by beginning of January. That's a swooping buck. I think he was a 4-year-old. And then we're back to January 4th. You have the 9-point coming in. You know, he's hitting the scrape. He's going to start coming back in regular January 4th. And you know, 522, that's legal shooting there. So we're getting this pre-rut phase in Alabama, and he starts coming back in. You'll start seeing him coming back in, start checking these scrapes. January 6th, there he is again. 2 days later at night, there you got that G2 buck. January 12th, he's back in, cruising through. At this point, they're starting to cruise a little bit. January 13th, you got the 9 point coming back in. January 14th. Alright, now this is a big boy. This is like a 5 or 6 year old deer that I had a lot of pictures of on the ridge. He's real funky, but a really mature buck. There he is again on the 15th. There's the 9 point. Back in the daylight, 11:30 on the 15th. Really beautiful deer there. Hope he's back. There's the mature buck again, a 5-year-old. There's the 9 point again. Middle of the night, hitting the scrape. And missed the middle of the rut. Those are in heat. They're getting after it. There's a young buck there. Looks like a 2 or 3 year old. There's that mature 5, 6 year old buck there. Ton of pictures of him. Middle of the night, checking the scrape. There's the 8 point back in. 4 year old 8 point back over. There's the old buck. You have that 6 year old coming in that last picture there. He's a buck that I videoed, or we had a bunch of pictures of historically on the scrape the year before. But he didn't show up till mid-January on it. He was in there like a couple straight nights, and then he shows up one morning, 7:30. He would have been killable. So just historically, these bucks, they know where they're going to be. They're going to be checking for does in that area, but he didn't come until, 5, 6 year old buck. He's not going to show up until pre-rut, rut, when he knows does are going to start coming in heat, and then he's going to be checking. Obviously, I didn't put any doe pictures in here. There were does coming in and hitting the scrape as well. It's crazy how the bucks that were hitting it, early season in October are the same bucks that are coming all the way back around, and they're hitting it in the rut. They're hitting those same scrapes. And you have, it's like 5 or 6 different mature bucks. I didn't put all the 2 year olds on there and stuff like that, but you have 5 or 6 different mature bucks hitting the same scrape. Not all during the daylight, but still 5 or 6 different mature bucks hitting this scrape at different times. And I think 3 or 4 of them during the daylight that would have been killable from a bow hunting standpoint. And that's what's great about scrapes, and that's what we like about them as bow hunters. It puts them in a place where you can, obviously it slows them down, it puts them at a stop, or it might put them broadside or quartering away for a good shot. But it also puts them within bow range, 20, 25 yards. We're taking this data, and I know this year I can hunt this scrape during the rut, especially. We saw the action pick up during the rut, and I was actually hunting some of these deer in a different place, actually at the creek crossing that I made a video about a few weeks ago. I'll link that up here. So take this data for what it's worth. It's pretty good. In Alabama, 4 mature deer in daylight on a scrape. It's probably a place worth hunting. Hit that subscribe button, like the video, and we will see you guys again next week.